Hey, there you are. It's Tammy. Thank you for coming back for the second episode in my little short series on KNITLIT. I'm just finished a row so I can put this down. It's a hat I'm making for my nephew. The yarn is from Buffalo Wool Company. I picked it up at Stitches West in February, and I'm making a hat from my own pattern, which is a free pattern on Ravelry, for my nephew. He already told me he would like it, so I win already. So the book I wanted to share with you today is by McNeil. It's called The Beach Street Knitting and Yarn Club. So far, this is a pretty short series, 3 books, but I love them. The story starts off in London, and it's about a woman who has a mother of 2 children, very small boys, and her husband has recently died in a tragic car accident. So she decides it would be best for her and her family to move closer to her grandmother, who's always been a support to her, and take over her yarn shop so her grandmother can retire. Didn't that sound like fun? I think that was a pretty good idea on her part. So I am going to start reading from about halfway through the 2nd chapter. This is she's just moved from London to the beach. It's a coastal town, and the night before she arrived, and she's setting out first thing the next day to go check out the yarn shop and get started on her new life. So I'm going to read to you just the second half of the 2nd chapter, and it starts this way. Gran appears at 7:30 the next morning with a packet of bacon and a new loaf, looking full of energy. God, I really hope she isn't planning to do this every morning. I'd forgotten about her early starts. The only drawback to spending the summer holidays at Gran's was being hoiked out of bed at the crack of dawn every morning. Vin used to refuse to get up, but I never had the nerve, and this morning's no exception. I'm downstairs putting the kettle on before I'm even half awake, while she starts cooking the bacon and humming "Onward, Christian Soldiers." You sit yourself down and let me do that. You look completely done in last night. Did you sleep well? Yes, fine, thanks. Actually, this is surprisingly true, despite dreaming about being shipwrecked and getting tangled in seaweed and having to cut myself free with the bread knife before I could swim to shore. At least it was better than the one where I'm driving on the car on the motorway with the boys in the back and the steering wheel comes off in my hands. 1 egg or 2? Just bacon for me, thanks, Gran. You can't have just bacon. That's not a proper breakfast if you've got a busy day in front of you. I'll do you 1. Go to work on an egg, isn't that what they say? Not for the last 30 years they haven't, but never mind. I say, I'm fine with the bacon sandwich, honestly. She sniffs, which means she doesn't approve, but doesn't want to make a scene. Shall I do the boys' scrambled eggs then? Lovely. Her chances of getting either of them to eat scrambled eggs is almost 0, but it's the thought that counts, and at least it'll stop her obsessing about what I'm eating. They come downstairs and start running around the table, clapping their hands and shouting, "Bacon! Bacon!" and seem thrilled to find someone finally providing them with a proper cooked breakfast. Gran starts to crack the eggs into a bowl. What's the plan for the day? Only I'd said I'd stop in to see Betty later, and I've got the Bowls Club this afternoon and bingo tonight for the lifeboats. I thought I'd do some crates, and then I want to go to the yarn shop and see if the new stock's in yet. Right you are then, lovey. I'm really looking forward to seeing the new stock. I've met most of the reps over the last few months, and they've shown me their new autumn ranges and told me about discounts and bulk orders and in-store promotion kits, most of which were either too big to fit in the shop or required ordering vast quantities of new ranges that I didn't particularly like. But the Rowan rep turned up with all sorts of gorgeous samples and beautiful colors, and I got carried away, to the tune of a small fortune in anybody's money, particularly mine, which I'm trying not to think about. They've asked me to be ladies' captain, you know. Who have, Gran? The bowls club. It's a lot of work, mind, arranging all the matches and everything, but I think I'll do it. Now I've got the time. Only you're to say, if you need me to help out in the shop or anything. I don't want you getting exhausted. These two are enough to keep anybody busy. She gives me a sideways look as she stirs the eggs. Yes, but they'll be back at school soon, and then I'll have every day until 3. And Elsie says she'll do the afternoons and extras on the holidays, so it's only Saturday mornings, really, if that's still okay with you. Of course it is, Pet. Archie stopped running around the table and is giving me one of his determined looks, which usually means trouble. I'm not going to school. I'm staying here to play with a dog. Great. I can go to prison for failing to get my 5-year-old to be a regular attender, and the RSPCA can take the dog into care. Don't be silly, Archie. They've got lovely things in your classroom, paints and a sand tray, don't you remember? And we're not getting a dog. Yes, but you have to sit on the mat at school. You always have to sit on the stupid mat. But only for stories, and you love stories. I can have my stories at home with you. I'll be working in the shop, so you'll have to come with me and sit and be very quiet. But if you're sure you want to be at home like a baby when Jack goes off to school, I suppose we could do that. I'm surprised, though. You're such a big boy now. Well, I might go just to see what it's like, only I haven't decided yet. I pour myself a cup of tea, and there's a marked silence when Gran presents the boys with their bacon and scrambled eggs. I don't like jumbled up eggs. Yes, you do, Jack. Your mom used to love them scrambled when she was your age. You just eat up like a good boy, and then we can go down to the beach. Jack stares at his plate, while Archie starts eating with lip-smacking sound effects. Can we take our fishing nets? Because we might catch a big fish, and there might be a whale, and we could keep it in the bath. Jack rolls his eyes. You couldn't get it in your net, silly. A great big whale, the pole would snap. It might want to be friends, and it could swim up by itself. You don't know. Tell him, Mum. You can both take your nets if you can find them, and your buckets, and we can go fishing for crabs off the pier later, if you like. But if you don't eat your breakfast first, Jack. But you'll have to eat your breakfast first, Jack. Try some of your egg properly, and then if you don't like it, you can leave it. But it was my favorite when I was little, so try some. He takes a tentative forkful. I'm really hoping Gran isn't going to launch into her waste not, want not routine, because it's not going to work with Jack, who could be a major food fusser if he was given half a chance. So I pretty much go for the one mouthful, and then if you don't like it, don't eat it, but don't whine approach, which has worked pretty well so far, apart from cauliflower and avocado. Actually, that's quite nice. Gran smiles. There's a good boy. He grins at me, and Gran gets up to pour herself more tea. I unpack more crates upstairs while the boys finish breakfast, and I get thoroughly absorbed in arranging sheets and pillowcases in neat little piles in the big linen closet on the landing, which has slatted wooden shelves and smells faintly of mothballs. The house may be in chaos, and I still don't know where half my clothes are, but at least I've got an impeccable arrangement of sheets and towels. By the time we're dressed, Gran's managed to unpack a vast collection of half-used tins of paint downstairs, so I stack them in the garage, while Gran tries to get boys to stop dueling with their fishing nets before someone gets poked in the eye. I'm beginning to feel rather nervous about going into the shop now we're actually down here and moved in, but it all feels a bit like the first day of school after the holidays, only I haven't had a holiday. And my back's starting to hurt again, so I'm doing a rather stiff-legged trudge as we head off down the hill, while Gran tells the boys how Vin and I used to sledge it down the hill in the snow, and Vin once shot right across the road and nearly onto the beach. I'm having visions of a Cresta run of solid ice outside my shop, and Archie disappearing under a bust balanced on my best tea tray as we continue our royal progress down Beach Street, with Gran stopping to talk to practically everybody she meets, while the boys run ahead and then run back again, waving their fishing nets and trying to get her to hurry up. The shops haven't changed much over the years, and the butcher has the same plastic parsley among all the white china trays, and the pink china pig, and Parsons has still got the metal buckets and mops hanging outside and smells of glue and wood shavings like it always did. We go in to say good morning to Mr. Parsons, and Archie knocks a coal shuttle over, and then we're outside the florist shop next door to our shop, and Mrs. Davis comes out to say hello, carrying a plastic tub full of yellow roses. Elsie's waiting for us, standing behind the old-fashioned counter with a glass top when I push open the door, which sticks, so you have to give it a bit of a shove. That's another thing I must get sorted, because people are always half falling into the shop after shoving too hard. The bell jingles and keeps on jingling as the boys each have a turn at opening and closing the door. "Aren't you going to come and say hello to Auntie Elsie?" They shuffle over, suddenly shy, while Gran casts an expert eye across the shelves and spots some of the new stock, a mohair and silk mix, and bright acid colors, which will knit up into lovely delicate wraps and shawls. They look expensive. I can tell she's not sure, and I don't really blame her, because Elsie's bundled them all together in a complete clash of colors. She's put the new cottons next to them, too, all shoved in together right next to some acrylic baby wool in a revolting shade of sickly green, next to salmon pink. Maybe she was trying to be helpful, or maybe not, but I'm itching to move them. Gran puts her bag on the counter. "I see you finished your carty, Elsie." Elsie nods and gives us a twirl. Dear God, it's got zigzag stripes in every color imaginable, and it makes her look like one of those Peruvian poncho people who play the panpipes outside the tube stations, wearing hats with ear flaps, mixed with a hint of Missoni, if they've suddenly gone colorblind and went for double knitting. If you look at it for too long, you start to feel dizzy. "I could knit you one if you like, Joe, and we could wear them in the shop." Bloody hell. But she says, "That's kind of you, Elsie. We may need so many new things for samples and the windows and everything. I was sort of counting on you for that." I'm very pleased with myself with this diplomatic answer, and I can tell Gran's impressed too, because she gives me a surreptitious wink. "Well, you just let me know, because I like to have a few things on the go, and I can pretty much do any pattern if I say so myself. I could always do you one between anything else that needs doing." Bugger. I'll have to think of something and quick, because I'm getting visions of myself stuck behind the counter looking like a loony. Desperate times call for desperate measures. "I've been thinking about doing a new display for the windows for the best seaside competition, and I'd like to knit some fish shapes in cotton and some of the new colors, so maybe you could help me with that." Elsie purses her lips and looks annoyed. "I'm not sure that's a good idea. It all sounds very modern to me." Bang goes my cardigan, I hope. Elsie hates change, and anything modern is to be avoided at all costs as far as she's concerned. But since it tends to involve bad manners or sex or both, often at the same time, Gran's trying to hide a smile. "Well, I think that sounds lovely, and Jo's always been clever with things like that, you know. She used to do me lovely shell pictures when she was little." Elsie gives me a rather sneering look. "Yes, but a window's a bit bigger than a picture, you know, and our ladies like nice, tidy windows." I think I should probably step in now before they go into one of their bickers. They've been bickering for years, and Gran usually loses, which, come to think of it, is probably why she didn't give up the shop ages ago. She couldn't face telling Elsie. "I'll do the window, Elsie, if you're not sure, but maybe you could do a shawl for me. There's a nice pattern in one of the Rowan books, which is quite fiddly, but I'm sure it won't be a problem for an advanced knitter like you, and I'd like to have a few things in the new colors to encourage people." I've already knitted one in silvery gray, with tiny silver beads knitted around the edges, which took me ages, but it was worth it. Ellen's tried to borrow it twice, which is always a good sign. Ellen is her best friend, so. Archie opens the shop door, keen to be off to the beach. "I'll take these two off then, and I'll see you later back at the house." "Thanks, Gran." She's humming as she goes out, but Elsie's still looking pretty ruffled. "Shall I make us a cup of tea, Elsie?" "No, I'll do it. It's no trouble." Elsie loves making tea. It's one of her favorite things. "Did you bring the kettle with you?" "Only your Gran borrowed it yesterday." "Damn, I knew there was something I meant to bring." "Sorry, I forgot, but I can go back and get it." "There's no time for that. I brought mine from home. I thought you might forget, what with moving and everything." "I won't be a minute." She looks slightly happier as she goes upstairs, having scored points on the kettle front, which is good, because I really like to avoid upsetting her if I possibly can. She worked here for years, and having her walk out my first week would be a disaster, because apart from anything else, she's the only one who knows how to open the till, You have to wiggle the number 8 and press the total key at the same time, and I still haven't gotten the hang of it. And she's completely reliable and happy to come at short notice because she likes to be out of the house and away from her husband, Jeffrey, who's recently retired and a source of constant disappointment to her. They live 2 streets over from the shop, and she'd like one of the new bungalows up by Gran, but Jeffrey's not keen. Actually, he's not keen on anything except his allotment where he grows giant onions, which have to be taken to the local shows in his wheelbarrow. They've got one of those silent marriages where people see the way for years never saying anything, like living inside a pressure cooker on very low heat, where everything goes soft and pulpy, simmering away for ages forgotten, until the lid finally blows off and you end up with bits of turnip all over your kitchen ceiling. I've always had a soft spot for Jeffrey because he made a sledge for me and Vin when we were little, and he used to play cricket with us on the beach with their son Martin, who was a couple of years older than us, and once chased Vin right along the seafront wearing his cowboy hat and firing at him with his cap gun. Martin moved to Cheltenham after he got married, but he's back at home now and going through a very messy divorce according to Gran. He works on computers, and his wife Patricia left him for the UK sales manager, and now insists on being called Patsy and drives a Mercedes sports car. Gran says Elsie's thrilled because she never liked the wife, who once bought her a satin nightdress with a matching dressing gown for Christmas, which wasn't from M&S, so she couldn't take it back, and now she's got Martin back home. She's cooking all his old favorites for him, which must be rather mortifying for him since he's over 40. But I bet he daren't tell her to lay off the eggy soldiers, because she's not the kind of woman you'd want to cross, especially if she happens to be your mother. I'm standing looking at the shelves while Elsie's upstairs, and I'm planning out I'm going to move everything around with all the nasty pastels in the back room, along with the white baby wool and the multicolored acrylic double knitting. Although I think I might wait till Vin gets here and maybe do it on a Sunday, when Elsie's safely at home boiling sprouts and battling with her Yorkshires. The back room has got the same dark wooden shelving as the front, divided into squares, and the same dark wood floor, but there are quite a few spaces and not very much stock, and the table with a couple of chairs, and all the patterns in an assortment of old cracked plastic folders next to the door on the stairs. The kitchen and loo are upstairs in the storeroom, packed with old display units that used to twirl around but don't anymore, and boxes full of oddments and materials and tinsels, along with all the cluttered grounds collected over the years. I'd like to try to open it up as a workroom and more shop space if I can ever get rid of all that rubbish. I'm wondering how much it would cost to hire a skip, and where I'd put one if I did, since it would be pretty much block the road when Mrs. Davis comes in the front door with a big bunch of sunflowers. I just wanted to say a proper welcome, love. Oh, how lovely. Thank you. Elsie barrels downstairs to see what's going on. Look, Elsie, aren't they lovely? Very nice. She gives Mrs. Davis a hostile look. I can't stop, but pop in any time if you need a change or anything. It's amazing how you run out if you get busy. See you later. Elsie's standing back behind the counter with their arms crossed, still looking hostile. There was a mini drama last year when they fell out over change, I think, something to do with pound coins. Wasn't that kind of her? Oh yes, very generous, but we've got to watch her, you know, or she'll be in and out all day long wanting change for 10-pound notes, although why she can't go to the bank like the rest of us is beyond me. And anyway, I haven't got any vases, so I don't know where she thinks you're going to put them. Yes, we have. There's one in the window, isn't there? I opened the door in the partition and reached through to pick up the glass vase with the faded plastic tulips. Elsie tuts. I spent quite a long time arranging them, actually, but never mind. I'll go and get the tea, shall I? Only there aren't any biscuits, I'm afraid. We used to have biscuits a while back, but your gran stopped buying them. She looks seriously put out now. Bugger. I think this might be the perfect time for an olive branch. I could get some if you like. I don't like bourbons. Okay. Or ginger snaps. Your gran's very partial to those, but they repeat on me. I quite like digestives, though, or custard creams. The way she says custard creams makes it fairly clear they're the top choice. Right, well, I won't be a minute. Bloody hell. From television news producer to biscuit girl, I think I'd better get a few packets because it looks like I may be needing them. Elsie's got a mouthful of custard cream when our first customer of the morning, Mrs. Stebbing, comes in. She buys 3 balls of lemon 4-ply and a pattern for a matinee coat for her granddaughter's new baby, who looks fairly chunky boy when he grows up, shows us the photographs, and not an obvious choice for the delicate lemon jacket with the lace design on the front. Then old Mrs. Maxwell comes in, or tries to, but she can't get her wheelie basket through the door. By the time we've got her in, there's a slight awkward pause when she can't remember what she wanted, but then it comes back to her with a bit of prompting from Elsie. She's knitting another sweater for the church, for orphans in Africa, and she wants to look in the bargain basket, where we put any oddballs left over from different dye lots, usually the cheaper things with the high percentage of man-made fiber, which wash well if you don't mind a sweater that builds up static. Quite a few of our old ladies knit things for church, and they're quite happy using up balls of wool, they're quite happy using up odd balls of wool, so the sweaters often have one yellow sleeve, one red, with a bright blue middle, like a weird version of Mondarian paintings, only warmer. I think this might be a good time to launch into another of my top new ideas, now that I've got custard creams as backup. Mrs. Marwell, do you think it would be useful if I started a charity basket? I was thinking we could ask people to bring in any leftover wool from home, and we'd put it in our spare stock like we do now. It would all be free for people to use for charity things like blankets or sweaters. Oh, I think that would be lovely. Wonderful, dear. Really wonderful, because it does add up, you know. And my pension doesn't go as far as it used to. Right. Well, let's start now then, so there'll be no charge, since it's for charity. So put your purse away, and if you've got any spare wool left, bring it next time. And put it in the basket. Someone's bound to be able to use it for something. She's thrilled and goes off promising to tell all the ladies at church about my marvelous new idea. Elsie's looking thin-lipped again. Oh dear. I meant to talk to you about that first, Elsie, but it doesn't seem right charging them, does it? Not for when it's charity. And we've got so much stuff that just sitting upstairs. Well, that's as may be. I hope you know what you're doing, because they'll all be bringing in all sorts now, stuff they've had in their cupboards for years. We can always throw it out if it's too manky. She sniffs. I think she's trying to decide if manky is a rude word. Have you got any more ideas, any more things you want to change? Only I'd like to know beforehand, and that way I can help you avoid making too many mistakes. Because it's not as simple as it seems sometimes, you know, when you've been doing it for as long as I have. Nothing major. Moving things around a little bit and putting newer stock out in the front and new window displays. I'd like to start a group. Invite people in for a glass of wine. People are starting them all over the place, and they're really popular. Not just in wool shops. People meet in pubs and cafes too. They call them stitch and bitch groups. I'm not sure that sounds very nice. I don't think our ladies would like anything like that. Couldn't you call it something nicer? Yes, but that's the whole point, Elsie. We need to attract new ladies. I mean women into the shop. I know, but what about knit and natter? That's much nicer. It doesn't sound so much fun, though, does it? Would you want me to work on any of these evenings, because I have to get Geoffrey supper, what with my Martin being home too, in at all hours with his work. I sometimes end up cooking twice of an evening, and he can be quite a fussy eater, you know. It's all salads and sandwiches. He won't touch the fish fingers anymore. He used to love them when he was little. I think maybe Martin's making a stand after all, which is really impressive of him. No, I'll do them. Gran says she'll have the boys, and it'll only be one night a week. But we need to try new things. We really do. Otherwise the shop will never make any money, and we'll have to close like so many other of the small shops have. Anyway, I think it'll be fun. Now then, shall we have another cup of tea and get started on the stock check? Only Gran will be back with the boys soon, and I still need to look through these orders. I'll go up and make a fresh pot. Would you like another biscuit? Please. Christ, I'll end up completely spherical if she carries on at this rate. I know Elsie's nervous of change, and I'm pretty nervous about it myself. But the shop only made £2,000 profit last year, which, according to the books I got from the business section in the library, is a retail equivalent of being kind of in a coma, where they either start playing your favorite music and sticking pins in your legs, or else turn the machines off. And the books say the vital thing you need in a shop is the detailed profile of your core customers, like supermarkets do when they send you money off vouchers for couscous with your club card statement, even though you bought it only once by mistake and your children refused to eat it because they said it looked like sick. At the moment, my core customer is called Doris, and she's 108, and she may not be able to remember where she's put the front door key, but she knows the price of 4-ply down to the last penny within a 100-mile radius. What I really need is a few more in their mid-30s called Tara or something ending with an E, who like beautiful glossy pattern books and won't faint if you pay £8.50 for them. They're buying pastels for a baby. They want raspberry. If they're buying pastels for a baby, they want raspberry or nougat or duck egg blue, but never peach. Nectarine, possibly, and sage greens and caramels and creams and pure wool and cotton mixes. Or silks and mohair. Tara wouldn't know how to knit a matinee coat if her life depended on it, but she'll have a go at a poncho, and I know she's out there somewhere because all the reps are saying wool sales have gone through the roof recently, especially for the more expensive ranges. So I just have to find out where she lives around here and keep Doris and her friends happy at the same time. Bloody hell. Still, it could be worse. I could be wearing a multicolored zigzag cardigan made entirely from man-made fiber and getting jolts of static electricity every time anything I touch feels vaguely metallic. Although I got a horrible feeling that it may be only a matter of time. So, doesn't that sound like a good book? I hope you think so. I hope that you're keeping an eye out for knitting literature, knitting fiction. This is a great one. Like I said, there's a third book out now. I hope you can look it up. You can find me on Goodreads.com. That's where I have a lot of these books listed, but I found lots of information about them, and I see new books when they come up. Goodreads.com is actually a great website. It's kind of like Ravelry but for books, so social media but for books, I guess. You can look up and learn a lot about the different authors. Sometimes they have a blog that you can find so that you can follow. And one thing that I really like to do, and I spend way too much time doing it, is looking at the giveaways for books. So a couple of times I've gotten some pretty good ones. And occasionally they do put knitting literature in there. So I have something new to share with you soon. Maybe. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great week, and keep reading. Love you. Bye.